What if I told you that one of the most destabilizing foreign policy moments of our lifetime isn't coming from an enemy nation, but from inside the United States itself? What if the biggest threat to NATO unity, Arctic stability, and Western alliances isn't Russia or China, but Donald Trump's latest imperialistic fever dream? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear exposes a level of geopolitical absurdity, gaslighting, and self-inflicted damage that would be comical if it weren't so dangerous. As Trump continues to saber-rattle and showcasing his imperialistic fever dreams, as it relates to Greenland, the rest of the world is stepping up. And not quietly. Today, leaders of Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, and the United Kingdom issued a joint statement. The statement reads, quote, "As members of NATO, we are committed to strengthening Arctic security as a shared transatlantic interest." The pre-coordinated Danish exercise, Arctic Endurance, conducted with allies, responds to this necessity. It poses no threat to anyone. We stand in full solidarity with the Kingdom of Denmark and the people of Greenland. Building on the process begun last week, we stand ready to engage in a dialogue based off the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity that we stand firmly behind. Tariff threats undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. We will continue to stand united and coordinated in our response. We are committed to upholding our sovereignty. Let that sink in. 8 major NATO allies, speaking with one voice, drawing a bright red line around sovereignty, territorial integrity, and unity, because the President of the United States can't stop fantasizing about annexing Greenland. This statement comes amid video footage of troops arriving in Greenland. Now, before anyone jumps in with panic or propaganda, it's worth noting something extremely important. This entire ordeal is deeply unpopular, both at home and abroad. This isn't some groundswell of American support. This isn't a bipartisan push. This isn't even popular within Trump's own base once you strip away the cult-like loyalty. In a stunning new poll by Reuters, only 17% of Americans approve of acquiring Greenland, and only 4% approve of doing so by force. Only 4%. That's not a fringe opinion, that's statistical noise. That's basically no one. And yet here we are, watching Republicans bend themselves into pretzels trying to justify the least popular foreign policy idea in modern US history. And clearly, with statements like the joint one released today by our allies, the rest of the world is just as opposed to it as the overwhelming majority of Americans are. Except, of course, Russia and China, who are busy cheering on the descent of Western power, as Donald Trump delivers Xi and Putin exactly what they want without having to fire a single bullet. Think about that for a moment. No tanks. No missiles. No invasion. Just chaos, division, and a US president willing to torch alliances that took generations to build. And so now Republicans are stuck in an unenviable position. They have to juggle blind allegiance to the God King while defending an idea that voters hate, allies reject, and experts laugh at. What you're left with is a level of delusion and gaslighting that is honestly almost impressive in its audacity.
Senator, troops from Germany, France, Sweden and Norway, they're taking part in a 2-day military exercise in Greenland. Senator, what kind of message are they sending to America with the deployment of these troops?
Well, I don't think this is a message to the United States. This is a message to China and Russia. The president has been saying it, and we have been saying it, and NATO has been saying it for 20 years, that Denmark needed to do something about the exercises that China and Russia was continuously running in just off the coastal line of Greenland. And it's becoming a true national security and a threat to NATO. So I think this is more of the NATO allies showing that, hey, look, we will try to take care of this, but they're wanting us to invest in air defense and sea power and a true all-over world defense there in Greenland. What the president is saying, and what I agree with, is, listen, we're not going to ask the taxpayers of the United States to truly invest billions into Greenland if it's not our own soil. If Denmark and NATO is so afraid of what's happening in the seas because of China and Russia, then either they invest or we will invest. But if we're going to invest, and it needs to be part of the United States, and I think if we give it to the people of Greenland and let them decide, either we buy it from Denmark or we allow the Denmark or the Greenland people to make a vote on it, I think you'd probably see that they would be in favor of joining the United States.
To which the chairman of the Danish Defence Committee responded, and I swear you can hear the disbelief dripping off every word. Chairman of Danish Defence Committee here, Please tell me more about these Chinese and Russian military exercises near Greenland. We haven't heard about that. That's not sarcasm. That's humiliation. That's an ally publicly calling out US Republicans for inventing threats out of thin air. I mean, my God. Listening to this Republican senator play make-believe that this is somehow necessary because of some imminent Russian or Chinese threat is laughable. And of course, this dumb argument stems from who else but Donald Trump himself.
Are you thinking of giving people in Greenland to get them on board with a possible U.S.
I'm not talking about money for Greenland yet. I might talk about that. But right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor.
Here's the thing that absolutely obliterates their entire narrative, and once you hear it, you won't be able to unhear it. There is no angling by Russia or China to take over Greenland. None. Zero. You know why? Because Greenland is owned by Denmark. And Denmark is a NATO country. That means if a foreign adversary even thought about invading Greenland, they wouldn't be facing Denmark alone. They would be facing the full force of NATO. The United States. The United Kingdom. France. Germany. The entire alliance. That's the whole point of NATO. That's why it exists. Which makes Trump's obsession even more insane, because undermining NATO by threatening to invade or annex territory from a fellow NATO member actually weakens the very deterrent that keeps Russia and China in check. In other words, Trump annexing Greenland doesn't stop a hypothetical threat, it creates one. Let me say that again, because it matters. The only thing making a Russia or China incursion more likely is Trump himself. He is manufacturing the crisis he claims to want to prevent. And it wasn't just Mark Wayne Mullen floating this fantasy. Oh no. Here, of course, is Ted Cruz taking his turn cozying up deep within the bowels of the guy who once called his wife ugly.
Comes to Greenland, I want to commend President Trump for being single-mindedly focused on America first, on U.S. economic interest and U.S. national security interest. I believe it is overwhelmingly in America's national interest to acquire Greenland. A year ago, as chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, I chaired a hearing on the benefits to the United States of America of acquiring Greenland. Now, some folks in the press, they clutch their pearls and they say, well, what do you mean acquiring Greenland? How could that happen? Look, the whole history of America has been a history of acquiring new lands and new territories. Whether you go back to Thomas Jefferson making the Louisiana Purchase, about half of the United States of America today,
yeah.
or you go back to America purchasing Alaska from Russia. You want to talk about, at the time they called it Seward's Folly, it turned out to be an extraordinarily consequential purchase. Greenland has massive rare earth minerals and critical minerals. There are enormous economic benefits to America, but it's also, like Alaska, it is located on the Arctic, which is a major theater for potential military conflict with either Russia or China. It's also critical for the Golden Dome and defending America from potential missile strikes. I commend the president for focusing on American national security.
Yeah, because where it is geographically can help stop any missile fire coming from adversaries like Russia and China.
If Ted Cruz wasn't a huge slob, he might have a shot at the U.S. gymnastics team ahead of the 2028 Olympics here in LA with those mental gymnastics. Somehow, he's convinced himself that it's America first to try and annex a foreign sovereign country. So let's ask the question Republicans desperately don't want to answer. How does either invading or buying Greenland help Americans? Does it make grocery prices go down? Does it lower healthcare costs? Does it reduce rent, childcare, electricity, or gas prices? Does it make clothing cheaper? Toys? Energy? No. It does none of that. Weird. I guess that would suggest that Ted Cruz is full of, well, who could have possibly guessed? In reality, this would only cost us money, power, and influence on multiple levels. Because not only would a military incursion be astronomically expensive, not only would a purchase be wildly expensive, but there's also a massive cost to alienating our own allies. And those allies, by the way, are the people with the most purchasing power on Earth. Just days ago, as a direct result of Trump's ongoing feud with Canada, guess what happened? They opened up their market to Chinese EVs.
China's strengths, for example, in electric vehicles, are formidable. They're undeniable. These are the most affordable and energy efficient and innovative vehicles in the world. And for Canada to build our own competitive EV sector, we need to learn from, partner with, and access and build supply chains with China. To help deliver on the full potential of these partnerships and to bring down costs for Canadians, we're going to start by allowing up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles into the Canadian market at the most favored nation tariff rate, which is 6.1%.
That's not symbolism. That's economics. That means American electric vehicle manufacturers now face stiffer competition in a key market. That means lost jobs, lost revenue, and lost leverage. And that's just one product, in one country, over one unnecessary feud. Now ask yourself this: do you really think threatening to invade a European ally is going to go unanswered by the rest of Europe? Do you think the EU, the United States' #1 trading partner, has no financial leverage? No retaliatory options? No coordinated response? They absolutely do. And do not be surprised when they use it. And when they do, who gets hurt? Not Donald Trump. Not Ted Cruz. Not Mark Wayne Mullen. You do. American workers do. American businesses do. American consumers do. This is what reckless leadership looks like. This is what ego-driven foreign policy looks like. And this is what happens when loyalty to one man outweighs loyalty to reality, facts, and national interest. So the next time you hear a Republican senator talking about Greenland like it's a real estate listing or a military necessity, ask yourself this: who actually benefits from this chaos? Because it sure as hell isn't the American people. And here's the real cliffhanger, the part you should be watching closely. If Trump is willing to destabilize NATO over Greenland, what else is he willing to sacrifice? Taiwan. Europe itself. Because once allies stop trusting the United States, rebuilding that trust takes decades, if it ever happens at all. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button, it helps more than you think. Drop a comment and tell me what you think. Is this the most reckless foreign policy stunt we've ever seen, or does something worse still lie ahead? Thanks so much for watching.